You are listening to part 55 of our series, 7 Medicines, The Wise Woman Way, with Susan Weed at Time Monk Radio. Hello, Susan, and welcome back to Time Monk Radio.
Thanks. I'm so glad to be back here with you, Gemini. You know, I got to thinking about the show that we did last week, and I realized that I didn't complete something I had started. We were talking about really assessing your actual need for a cholesterol-lowering drug, and I had mentioned that you divide your HDL level by your total cholesterol, and you want to have a number above 24, or that you could divide your triglyceride level by your HDL level, and you want to have something that's below 2. And I also talked about iron, and that you want your iron to be lower rather than higher, but I didn't mention that your fasting insulin level and your fasting blood sugar level are also incredibly important. In fact, at this point, we suspect that about half of the American population is suffering from insulin resistance. And you can find that out by getting a fasting insulin level. And Dr. Mercola, as well as people at the Wise Traditions Foundation, Weston A. Price Foundation, suggest that if you are dealing with insulin resistance, that the fastest way to improve your health is to start consuming a lot more fat. As a matter of fact, Dr. Mercola goes so far as to say that most people, if they upped the amount of fat to 50 to 85% of their daily calories with healthy fats, would get rid of their type 2 diabetes. I am thrilled to hear that. What's your fasting blood sugar level? Studies have shown that people with a fasting blood sugar level of 100 to 125 have a 300% higher risk of having a coronary heart disease or coronary heart attack than people whose level is below 80. So you want to look at what your fasting blood sugar level is, as well as your fasting insulin level. And if those things are up, you need to lower those rather than just working on lowering cholesterol. As we can see, it's not as straightforward as they might have us think. Also, this week I found a very scary small article in Bottom Line Health, and it said that, as we know, the cholesterol treatment guidelines have been revised by the American Heart Association and the American College of Cardiology, and this happened a couple of years ago. And there continues to be controversy about these guidelines because basically what they said was the lower the cholesterol, the better. Keep using more and more statins to lower cholesterol. However, the lead author of the guidelines is a very strong proponent of statin usage and is a consultant for companies like Abbott, Merck, Pfizer, and Reliant, who make statin drugs. The second author admitted in an interview in the New York Times that she took research money from the companies that sell cholesterol pills. Now, it's not a terrible sin. Person wants to do research, but it's a clear conflict of interest. And yet another one of the authors has received lecture money from Pfizer, Merck, and has been hired as a consultant for Pfizer. And these are the major players in selling statins. So what are we to think when we are told that our cholesterol levels need to be brought lower and lower and lower, and yet we are told by the people who have the most to gain by that belief? It's not a true belief. Research has shown that most people will be able to lower cholesterol to healthy levels by making lifestyle changes such as eating healthier, increasing their exercise, and doing some daily meditation. How do we lower cholesterol with herbs, foods, and movement? We can lower our cholesterol with lifestyle changes as well and as rapidly as with drugs. From my online course, Have a Healthy Heart, The Wise Woman Way, I offer you the A list, the B list, and the C list. The A list, of course, is the gold standard, and the C list is just squeaking by. But these will all help you have a healthy heart, the Wise Woman way. The A list, just say no to drugs, say no to statin drugs, say yes to healthy cholesterol with these 5 easy strategies. Do them one or do them all. The more you do, the happier your heart. Feed your liver. Eat 1 or more cholesterol-lowering foods at every meal. Improve your omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acid ratio. Eat more herbs and spices and get moving. All right, let's start with number 1. Feed your liver. There is cholesterol in some foods. We know what foods those are. Red meat has cholesterol, full-fat dairy, full-fat cheese, full-fat yogurt, the only kind I eat, eggs, lobsters, shrimp, but not fish, contain cholesterol. But remember that most of the cholesterol is made by your liver. And that's going to be more of a problem than what's in your food. We not only blew up the cholesterol myth, we blew up the vegan and vegetarian myth in terms of having a healthy heart as well. We want a healthy liver. The healthier the liver, the less cholesterol it's going to dump into the blood. Here are some of my favorite liver-loving herbs. You've heard me talk about them before, so I'll be brief. Dandelion root tincture, a classic liver strengthener, and it turns out to reduce cholesterol as well. A dose is 10 to 25 drops before meals or as needed, or a tablespoon of the dandelion root vinegar. And I tend to go with the tablespoon of the dandelion root vinegar for a couple of reasons. All parts of the dandelion can be used, but the root contains a substance called inulin. And that inulin, while dissolvable in alcohol as well as in vinegar, we're not going to get as much of the inulin when we take the tincture. We're going to get a lot more when we take the vinegar because we take so much more of the vinegar, consume so much more of the vinegar. Inulin is a resistant starch. It gets all the way down into the gut because it's not digestible, and there it's used as a food for the bacteria that are most responsible for keeping us healthy and especially for keeping our hearts healthy. Chicory root is just like dandelion, except it's got blue flowers instead of yellow. So we think of chicory root tincture for those who need to be cooled down, who need to be calmed down instead of warmed up and energized. Chicory's blue flowers are sun-shy. They bloom only in the cool of the morning, in the evening, or on rainy days. There are saponins in chicory root, which grab onto circulating cholesterol and render it inactive. A dose is 10 to 25 drops of the tincture of the root morning and night, or a tablespoonful of the vinegar on food daily. Yellow dock tincture. Yellow dock is so conspicuous here in August as it has gone to seed, and the seeds are these beautiful kind of russety, ruddy spike of seeds sticking up from among the tops of the grasses and the other plants, because yellow dock can get quite high. And if you're into flower arrangements, you've probably already discovered that those yellow dock seeds stay really well. They really cling. You can come in and make a beautiful decoration with them without worry of, you know what happens if you bring those cattails in. Yes, indeed, they just, one night while you were fast asleep, turn into 1,000,000 cattail seeds all over your house. No, the yellow dock is not going to do that. Yellow dock tincture, usually it's the yellow dock root tincture that we use. And it aids the gut as well as the liver, ensuring regularity. Like chicory, yellow dock root contains saponins and phytosterols. This helps yellow dock root counter oxidation of cholesterol and to deactivate it. Milk thistle seed tincture is a supreme liver ally. It is best used before the fact, that is, before drinking heavily or taking drugs, even prescribed drugs, but especially chemotherapy, and especially before exposure to any hepatotoxic substances. All right, feed your liver, and eat one or more cholesterol-reducing foods every day at every meal. Apple, blueberry, strawberry, whole grain, avocado, and lots of other heart-healthy foods are much better than drugs in their ability to lower LDL, raise HDL, and reduce total cholesterol. And next week, I am actually going to go through a specific list of those foods and the actual amounts of cholesterol or percentages of cholesterol that they will lower, because we have done studies to that fine a degree. Improve your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. The native diet for human beings has a ratio of 1 omega-3 to 1 omega-6, or 2 omega-3 to 1 omega-6. And this includes people who eat diets that are mostly meat, milk, and or fish, and they don't have cardiovascular disease. However, the modern diet with lots of processed foods has a ratio of 1 omega-3 to up to 200 omega-6. This depends very much on which vegetable oils predominate in your diet. That ratio needs to be brought back as close as possible to that 1-to-1 ratio. The best ways to do this are to stop using any oils other than olive oil, avocado oil, or coconut oil, and to increase the amount of fatty fish. Hundreds and hundreds of studies confirm that eating fish at least 2 times a week will prevent heart attack and stroke better than any drug. Studies focusing on fish oil in capsules have not had such good results. Flax seeds, so long as they're ground and baked, are an excellent plant source of omega-3 fatty acids, but note again, they must be ground and then baked to get the benefit from them. There are lots and lots of herbs and spices that can help us lower cholesterol: turmeric, cinnamon, and ginger. Also, cayenne, which is a very interesting plant vis-a-vis the heart. And next week, we're going to be talking in more detail about these herbs and spices. And number 5 in our Group A, top of the line things, is get moving. A daily walk, a couple of minutes of vigorous movement, yoga, tai chi, swimming, golfing, any movement at all will bring down cholesterol levels if engaged in regularly and frequently. Last week we were talking about a study. They exercised 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week. That's a really reasonable goal. Or go for a walk of a couple of miles 2 or 3 times a week. That works too. All right, the B list. And this is for the people who do not have the time or the inclination to change anything about their diet or their lifestyle. They've been listening in and say, yeah, that's good. Eat more cholesterol-reducing foods. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Yeah, omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acid ratio. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be eating any more fish or doing anything at all like that. If you can't give it to me in a pill, what can you do? Well, there are still natural remedies that you can try. They're not quite in a pill yet, getting there, but not quite, that can have some pretty good effects on your heart. And those include fiber supplements, niacin, foods fortified with sterols and stanols, soy beverages, getting your thyroid checked, and red rice yeast. Fiber, like that found in whole grains, leafy greens, fruits, vegetables, and beans soak up cholesterol. It's said that your modern-day American gets about 20 grams of fiber on a daily basis, and that your average indigenous person got 10 to 15 times that, 200 to 300 grams of fiber. More whole grains, more leafy greens, more beans, more cooked vegetables to soak up that cholesterol, or a fiber supplement. If you are taking a fiber supplement, be sure to drink plenty of water. And if you're taking a fiber supplement, it is probably going to be psyllium husk, and psyllium is a kind of plantain. And so instead of buying a fiber supplement, you can just go right out to your lawn, if it hasn't been mowed this week, and harvest plantain seed, spread it on newspapers, and let it dry. And when you have your daily granola or your oatmeal or your toast, sprinkle some of those plantain seeds on there. It's one better than Metamucil. Niacin, which is vitamin B3, has so much evidence behind it for treatment of high cholesterol that it's actually, as we mentioned last week, prescribed. Niacin is turned into a more drug-like, more acceptable form because there are some problems with niacin, but it is recommended by the National Cholesterol Education Program and accepted by most doctors as a mainstream alternative. 50 years of research confirmed that niacin, whether from food or from pills, reduces triglycerides and low-density lipoprotein while increasing the high-density ones. Remember, we want less low and more high. The biggest drawback is a niacin flush, a red, itchy, not always, but a red rash that can be itchy, which is a universal side effect in the early stages of treatment. To avoid this, some people take niacinamide or a non-flush niacin, but they're not as effective as the real stuff. Nicotinic acid, vitamin B3. If you start off taking a small dose of nicotinic acid, vitamin B3, then start off small, say 250 milligrams a day, and slowly increase up to the level you need to get your numbers where you want them. And that can be up to 2 grams a day. You will ward off the worst of the flush. In most people, if you start to get a flushing reaction, it can continue for up to 3 weeks. Don't take niacin if you are taking a statin drug. If you're taking a statin drug, you can improve the health of your liver. You can get moving. You can eat cholesterol-reducing foods. You can improve your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. You can do all the things in Group A, but you cannot use a statin drug and niacin at the same time. So remember that high doses of niacin will raise blood sugar levels in people with diabetes, and in addition to causing the niacin flush, they can cause a semi-permanent reddening of the face and neck, headaches, blurred vision, and heartburn. Stanols, also called sterols, are fat-like substances in plants that can actually be used by our bodies in the way that many other hormones are used. The sterols and stanols that you will get in your food are commercial forms of the natural phytosterols found in plant seeds and roots. These compounds gum up the body's ability to absorb cholesterol. So they're added to margarine, granola bars, orange juice, and even, oh, I can't believe it, chocolate. How could you do that to lovely Lady Chocolate? Of course, you could take stanols as a supplement, but in general, drinking your nourishing herbal infusions and getting more cooked greens into your diet, more roots and more whole grains will improve the amount of phytosterols that you are getting. Increasing the amount of phytosterols in your diet or taking them as a supplement will lower LDL cholesterol by about 10%. Soy Beverage has a mixed reputation, and it deserves that mixed reputation. But when it comes to lowering cholesterol, the studies are all pretty much in agreement. And that is that if you drink 2 to 4 cups of soy beverage every day, you will reduce your LDL about 3%. There's some real problems with soy, and a 3% reduction is not a really big reduction, especially not when you understand that sterols lower it by 10%. Believe it or not, an underactive thyroid can actually elevate your levels of cholesterol. And some experts believe there's an epidemic of hypothyroidism in the U.S. So underactive thyroids cause elevated levels of cholesterol, and there appears to be an epidemic of underactive thyroids. Try healthy lifestyle changes. If that doesn't change your cholesterol numbers, try taking thyroid hormone. Symptoms of an underactive thyroid may include cold all the time, fatigued, skin dry and scaly, memory impaired, and joint pain. Red rice yeast is a supplement, and it is basically what some people are calling natural statin. It is literally the same as a statin drug, but you don't have to get a prescription for it. You can go into any health food store and buy red rice yeast. The jury is out on whether or not this is a safe thing to do because, again, this is exactly the same compound that a statin is. However, most of the time plants have a global effect rather than a linear effect, thus suggesting to us that it might indeed be safe to take red rice yeast. Dr. David Jenkins of St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto created a dietary portfolio of cholesterol-lowering foods that substantially lower LDL, lower triglycerides, and lower blood pressure. The portfolio of foods includes margarine enriched with plant sterols, oats, barley, psyllium seed, that's plantain seed, okra, eggplant, soy, and whole almonds. Adding any of these to your diet will help without any change in your diet. All right. That's our B list. And we have a C list, too. You did not say to your doctor, I do not wish to be on drugs. I am not going to take a statin. I am not convinced that statins are good for me. You said to your doctor, okay, I'll take that statin. If that's what you did, you might also want to do these things. Take supplemental CoQ10. Last week we talked about problems with statins, and one of the major and acknowledged problems with statins is that it interferes with the pathway by which the body makes CoQ10, which is important for all muscle function as well as for memory retention in the brain. So, is this known by drug companies? It is indeed, I am told by someone in the know, that one of the largest drug companies has a patent on a statin that contains CoQ10 so that you can actually get them at the same time. And they took out the patent so that no one else could make this. I have asked many people to ask their doctor to prescribe CoQ10 at the same time that they prescribe the statin, and no doctor has refused. Most doctors are well aware that CoQ10 is incredibly negatively impacted by taking a statin, but no insurance company has ever agreed to pay for the CoQ10, and it is expensive. You may also want to take your dose of statin just before you go to bed at night, not in the morning. Cholesterol production in the liver is highest after midnight and lowest in the morning. So this timing allows the statin to be where it can do the most good at the best time. Even if you're taking a statin, you can still pay attention to all of the things that we're going to be talking about next week. Herbs that lower cholesterol, foods that lower cholesterol. You don't have to change your diet. You can add those foods to your diet. You can add those herbs to your diet, and they are all perfectly safe to integrate with statin drugs. You also can get moving, even if it's just a little bit more. Any increase in activity is going to decrease the risk of heart disease much more than taking a statin will. Park your car further away. When you park your car, do not look for the parking spot closest to the door looking for the parking spot, the furthest away from the door. Be adventurous and explore stairs. Every building that has an elevator also has stairs as well. Explore going up those stairs, or look for a walk in your area that takes you up a hill, so you get some hill climbing, even if you only get up and move for 1 or 2 minutes out of the hour. But you do that 10 times a day. We notice improved cardiovascular fitness and decrease in heart attack and stroke risk. This one's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but if you're going to be taking that statin, choose different grandparents, because genetics do have a large role to play. Last week we talked about specific genetic tests, and you may want to go back to last week's show and listen to those tests and see if your doctor and your insurer will treat you to some of those tests, because, in fact, we can't choose different grandparents. Now, all of us, there is a very short list of things that we want to turn a cold shoulder to. We want to avoid these things. And this A list, B list, C list, and list to avoid are from my online course, Have a Healthy Heart, The Wise Woman Way. You can find more information about that at thewisewomanbookshop.com. We want to avoid fried food. Oh, dear. Fried food is usually fried in vegetable fat that is slightly rancid, which is a nightmare of antioxidants and other just horrible things for your body. Any method of cooking is preferable to frying, and fried food in restaurants, forget it. Trans fats, avoid trans fats. They are the byproducts of the chemical reaction that turns liquid oil into solids such as margarine or shortening. Trans fat or trans fatty acids, as sometimes called, are the single thing that increases LDL. They also lower HDL, increase inflammation, and encourage the formation of blood clots. Why on earth would we ever want to use margarine knowing that there will always be trans fats in it? And please, let's avoid as much as possible refined carbohydrates. That means white flour, white sugar, and high fructose corn syrup, because these refined carbohydrates boost triglycerides. And remember that the more triglycerides in the blood, the more likely we are to have a heart attack. Triglycerides also lead to excess weight, which in itself boosts LDL. Remember, we want LDL to go down. We don't want it to go up, and depresses HDL. And remember, we want HDL to go up, not down. So in every way, triglycerides are an enormous problem for anyone who wants to have a healthy heart. The Wise Woman Way. We were talking about Dr. Mercola in the very first session, and he has a very similar list of things that he suggests for boosting HDL. Step number 1, ignore all conventional advice to eat a low-fat, low-cholesterol diet. Remember that no and low-fat foods are high in sugar, and that means they're going to raise your dense LDL particles. Number 2, exercise regularly. Exercise is the safest and most effective way to prevent and treat heart disease. Researchers at Harvard and Stanford reviewed 305 trials and concluded there is no difference in terms of improvement in health between taking a statin and increasing physical activity. Replace all processed food with whole food. Eat meat, full-fat dairy, and eggs from animals that are grass-fed, pastures, and if possible, raised organically. Eliminate all no-fat and low-fat foods from your diet. There are some researchers, like Dr. Stephanie Seneff, who believe that optimizing vitamin D levels through regular sun exposure as opposed to taking a supplement optimizes heart health. Get your gut health going. We've been talking a little bit about that. Quit smoking. That's good advice. Reduce your alcohol consumption. And pay attention to your oral health. A 2010 study found that those with the worst oral health increase the risk of developing heart disease by 70% compared with those who brush their teeth twice a day. So we will be back next week to finish up our month on cholesterol by talking about foods and herbs that can help us in our pursuit of a healthy heart and lower cholesterol.
Thank you, Susan. And this concludes part 55 of our series, The 7 Medicines, The Wise Woman Way, with Susan Weed at Time Monk Radio.